Hello everybody, welcome to episode 2 of our GOAT Deluxe amp. I want to start off this episode by first of all thanking all of you that sent your best wishes for Linda. She did have her surgery last Wednesday. It was for some discs in her neck that had bone spurs and were compressing on nerves, and she basically had lost feeling in her fingers and her toes and all that kind of stuff. So if left untreated, it could have caused permanent damage. So it's definitely something she needed to get done. The way they do it is they go through the front of the throat instead of the back. So you can imagine what that feels like. So pretty pretty painful, obviously, and she'll be recuperating for a while. So my videos may be a little shorter and maybe more space in between, but we'll do the best we can. I need to keep busy too. So I've made a little bit of a change here with our amplifier, but I'm going to change the battery first on the camera because it's starting to get weak, and let me come back and show you. Be back. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is the amplifier that I'm going to build is really a design that I got from Terry over at D-Lab. See my shirt here? D-Lab. I got this shirt because Terry had a contest. Whoever submits original music for his opening song, he'd send a t-shirt to. So shameless plug for Terry at D-Lab. Go check him out. Really, really good. So Terry put up an interesting design today that I'm gonna use. So let me show you what that's about. Be right back. Okay. So this is the design that Terry posted today, actually. And what he did was he took an old police scanner and turned it into a 10-watt Class AB push-pull amp. Now, if you remember my original design, I was going to use a 6AQ5. And I was going to use a 12AX7, and I was going to use a 6X4 for the rectifier. But I've got so much room underneath this chassis that why not go for a little bit more power? That would only be about 3 watts, maybe, if I did that. And I was going to have a feature where I was going to have dual rectification, and I thought about it and said, you know what, for 3 watts, really not worth it. So I've scrapped that plan, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually build what Terry showed us today in his new video. So go check out D-Lab if you have a minute. So basically here is your here's your input, right? And you've got your 12AX7 split in half, right? This is how the 12AX7 is, 2 sides. And you've got your treble and your bass here. And then you come over here to your 6 AV6, which is your inverter. And then you've got a pair of 6 AQ5s, one here and one here. Okay? Real simple. Rectification, 2 diodes, no rectifier tube. Plain and simple. I'm not going to put any switch in there. And you've got your 6.3 volt heater line, and pretty straightforward. Over here he has a output for a 4 and 8 ohm. I think I'm just going to have an 8 ohm output on this, but I'm going to be able to use the same chassis. Now let me show you what the chassis looks like. But what I'll do is I'll focus in on this for a moment in case any of you want to try to build one, or at least study the schematic. So we'll make it so that you can freeze it for a second and take a peek. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so if you recall, our chassis has a lot of holes in it, right? This had the original 40 tubes in here and had a number of other 8-pin octal tubes. So what I've done is I've put a Hammond plate on top here. And I've got it riveted down, and I've just cut out this one, which I'm going to mount right here, like so, and we're going to rivet that down as well, and that's going to give me a clean slate to start with. You got to remember, I'm only going to be using 7-pin tubes here, so these are not large footprint tubes. Matter of fact, I have one right here I could show you. Here's the tube cover, and here's the socket. Okay. And these things are really, really small, and we'll zero in a little bit on that so you can see it. Really not much to them, okay? They're a relatively small footprint, so I just have to use like a step bit and just drill a few holes here and get this thing laid out. Now let me show you, I also changed transformers. The original transformer that I had originally planned to use was a 600 volt transformer. Way too much for this application. So I found this this EdCore transformer that I have in stock, and nice little blue, so it's going to pop real nice with the design. And if you look at it, it's 400 volts center tapped, so 200 on each side. Okay, real simple. So it doesn't have a 5 volt rail, just has a 6.3 volt for the filaments. And it also has wiring for 220, which I won't use obviously. But once I get this plate mounted and pop riveted and all that stuff, this transformer is going to end up going right about here, like so, like that. And then what I'm going to do is figure out how I'm going to lay out the amp. So what I'm thinking, just real loosely, is you always want to have your preamp tube, your 12AX7, as close to the input of the amp as possible. Okay? So let's assume for a moment that we're going to put our 12AX7 there. We're then going to put our 6AQ5s right here. And we're probably going to put our inverter tube right about there. Okay? And that all that really leaves us to do is to put our output transformer, which we'll probably mount somewhere around here, like so. Now the challenge on this amp is going to be, normally you would have your potentiometers coming out the front here, nice short run of wires. Well, if you remember the design of this amp, this thing sits above here, right? It's by 7 inches, it sits above. And all the controls are in here. So I'm going to have to run wires up through this thing, coming up to here. Now that is a huge pain because that's going to open the door for me to get all kinds of interference, hums, all kinds of stuff. But there is a solution, and I know what the solution is. I'm going to use shielded wire. I've got a whole pack of shielded wire here, like so. And I'm going to obviously mount it to ground, the shielding part, and I'm going to bring it up individually in places where it needs to come up and make sure that I don't introduce any noise. And if you remember when I took this amp apart, there was also shielded wire coming up. So it's very, very common. But I do have the shielded wire already, so we're going to be ready to use that. And then let me put these parts away so they don't get damaged. There's pins here and I don't want them to get bent. And lastly, on the bottom of this thing, like so, it'll obviously look like this once it's dismounted. I'm going to use all point-to-point wiring, obviously, and I'm going to run everything along the edges here, and I'm going to tie them with string. One of you, I forget, in one of my previous videos, maybe it was Tim, that said, hey, why don't you, use like Navy military specs and tie it off with string. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this thing extremely neat underneath, and I'm going to use solid core wire again so that I have really good formation in this thing. I'm only going to use a few terminal strips. I'm obviously going to need a terminal strip here for my diodes. I'm going to need a couple of terminal strips here where I mount my my output tubes, and probably one somewhere around here. But that's going to be a very minimal amp. So that's the plan, and we're gonna start working on this. I have to wait until tomorrow to really get started, obviously because of time, but also my pop rivet gun decided to break on me. I bought one of those cheap Home Depot Stanley guns, put in this last rivet, broken. So I ordered a better one off of Amazon. That'll be here tomorrow, and then we'll be able to pop rivet this cover or this plate in, and then we'll be able to start drilling the holes that we need. We'll lay out everything in pencil before we touch anything and drill, and we'll make sure we've got all good connections. Now you'll notice that I left holes here in the front, right here in this ring. I may use those to run the shielded wire through. Right, they're close up against the chassis, and I can run them up, and they'll keep me out of trouble, I think. I don't know yet. You know me. We'll get there. We'll figure it out. So that's the update on the old Goat Deluxe. We have a plan. We've got a nice, cool blue transformer, which will really make this thing pop out nicely. And we're going to go to town. All right. So that's the update, guys. I'll let you know when I come back and do some more. I obviously will have some time to do this riveting tomorrow, so that's good. But the rest of it, we'll play it by ear. Again, thank you for all your well wishes. Linda, also, I told her all about them, and she's very, very, very appreciative of all your well wishes. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great night.